I've built a creative career with no safety net, no family, no connections, really no plan B, just purpose. Get radically self-aware. Pay attention to what feels natural and what drains you. And once you identify that zone of genius, protect it and nurture it. Because me personally, I don't think the world needs more well-rounded professionals. I think it needs people who are undeniably great at what they're meant to do. Hi, my name is Gaby Huezo. I'm the founder and creative director of Haus of Duke, and you're listening to Dreams in Drive.
Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 441 of the Dreams in Drive podcast. In this powerful and heartfelt episode, we're going to be sitting down with Gaby Huezo, a creative strategist, storyteller, and founder of Haus of Duke. Gaby's going to be talking about what it really looks like to bet on yourself, to leave everything you know behind, and build a global impact career that's rooted in purpose. Gaby's going to take us back to her childhood in El Salvador, where her love for journalism and storytelling first took shape, and where she learned early on that stories can spark change. She shares what it was like shaping influencer strategy for MAC Cosmetics in El Salvador, and the moment she realized she needed to step out of her comfort zone and into possibility by moving to Los Angeles in 2018. And what I love about this episode is that Gaby keeps it real about those first few years in LA. She opens up about identity, representation, and the courage it takes to walk into rooms where people may not expect you, but where you choose to take up space anyway. You'll also hear about the business side. So Gaby details her first campaign moment, how she maintains client relationships, and the real lessons behind building a creative business in a competitive landscape. So if you're a creative, an immigrant, a first-generation dreamer like myself, or someone who has ever questioned whether your background, voice, or identity belongs in bigger rooms, this conversation will move you and is for you. As always, I hope you guys enjoy. If you want to join the Dreams in Drive online community and get our weekly email updates, just go to dreamsindrive.com/join. That's dreamsindrive.com/join to sign up. All right, let's hear from Gaby. Hi, Gaby. Welcome to Dreams in Drive.
Hi, Rena. I'm so excited to talk to you.
I am so excited to talk to you. We've crossed paths before in the workplace, right? And I was just so inspired and so impressed by the time that we did work together. We were always just mentioning how your work is always just so top tier. And when I learned about the new things that you're working on, and I just was like, you know what? I feel like Gaby is somebody whose dream driving journey can be inspirational to the listeners of this show. So that's why you are here today.
Oh, thank you. That's very nice to hear.
Yes, it's like when your work speaks for you, you don't have to do the selling of it. So you are definitely a testament to that. As we get started on this episode, I love to go back in time, right? I think it's so important to think about who we were as children. And for you, I know you grew up in El Salvador. And you mentioned in a past interview of yours that you were a kid that really had a lot of creativity, connection, and curiosity were things that really were motivating you. Talk to me about that. How did that inspire you as a kid? Who was the young Gaby? What were your dreams?
Yeah, I think growing up in El Salvador, we have all these stories or tales that refer to the traditional myths and folklore from El Salvador and Central American countries. And I think that planted my love for communication. So I decided to study journalism, and it mostly came from also some feedback that I received from a teacher. We were supposed to talk about the Mayan culture, and I like fashion as well, so I decided to do it as a red carpet. Like if I was interviewing Mayan characters at a red carpet, and that teacher who I still, love so much and cherish everything that she taught me. She gave me my paper back and she was like, you should really pursue journalism. And that's when I realized, like, um, storytelling can create change and can expand, not just to sell, but to amplify underrepresented voices. And I think that's been my purpose ever since. So I would describe myself. I'm the youngest of three. I'm the only girl. So,
Mm.
like that little like mischief also was part of my personality. Very independent, very driven and resourceful. And I think those are qualities that have led me to where I am today, and that lead and basically guide my career in what I do.
Yeah, and I know that you also you've mentioned a lot about how you had this like early love for storytelling and how this really sparked your creative curiosity. I think it also, for me listening to you, it makes me realize that as kids, we have these superpowers that we don't know yet how they'll evolve. Do you see that? Like now looking back at young Gabby, that there were things already there that were just waiting for you to put them into motion?
Yeah, I think like I said, I remember that my parents were always like, "Oh my God, this girl," like like I was always uh doing everything myself, finding ways to like play with my brothers, because and I would like sit them and be like, "You're gonna be my students right now," or "You're gonna like just." I had a really, and I still have a really strong personality. I feel that has what's given me the drive to pursue everything. I was actually the only one that studied abroad. I'm the only one from my siblings that lives abroad. I've built a creative career with no safety net, no family, no connections, really no plan B, just a purpose. That purpose, I think, started there when I was a kid with those early stories, those early like games, those early, dreams that show me the power of having a voice.
Yeah, let's talk about that because there was something that led you, right? There were a series of events that led you to deciding to leave and to come to LA. You worked for Mac, right? Is that back home, right? Talk to me about that experience and how working for Mac and helping to really get their influencer program off the ground kind of shaped your trajectory and next steps.
Yeah, so I mean that was actually like a dream come true. The role wasn't didn't exist. So I was working at the beauty department of the biggest department store in Central America. So I was doing marketing for all the brands that we sold, and then Estee Lauder was like, we need to start a PR program in, El Salvador and Central America. So that job was literally offered to me. Like I didn't have to interview. I didn't like it was,
That means
uh,
you were doing a dope job at whatever you were doing before, though, right? Because they
yeah,
wouldn't just offer it to anyone.
yeah. So they literally just were like, hey, we're doing this. I think you're like the person to do this. And I remember asking them like, why am I not being considered for the marketing manager role, but just like the PR? And they were like, you have this, this grace for building relationships and, um, connecting authentically with people, and so yeah, I started at MAC Cosmetics, and I started leading basically the influencer program and the PR initiatives when the concept in the region was still very new. We were still doing like press conference and radio, like people calling to the radio and
What
promote.
year was this?
This is 2013.
Okay.
So yeah, I basically had to design everything from scratch, scouting creators, negotiating partnerships, and the most important part was tracking that ROI that, like it's very difficult sometimes to measure ROI and to prove that your work is actually having impact in sales, which is at the end of the day the purpose of every company, right? So I think that experience really taught me every side of a business.
Okay, so the big question here is why leave that, right? It seems like you were doing a lot, you had a lot of opportunity to then go to dirty America. I'm just playing, to move to Los Angeles. What sparked that desire to move? And I say that because a lot of times when I speak to guests on the show, it's often a location shift that changes their whole dream driving journey, right? So talk to us about that move to Los Angeles.
One day after a lot of years at Mac and basically feeling burnt out, I thought there's like a white space here. Like there's no one doing what I'm doing in the way that I'm doing it in the country and in the region. And again, like being at Mac had already like I had the experience of knowing every side of a business. So I was like, I think I can do this on my own. And that's when I built my own agency, House of Duke, which is unrelated to any social media name or whatever. It's mostly like a personal brand. I can talk to that later. But I remember just telling my parents, like, I'm gonna quit tomorrow.
So you didn't
And
even give him a 2 day, you didn't give him 2 weeks. You just said
I,
bye.
yeah, I gave them my 2 weeks, but my decision was very like that same day. Like I remember driving back and I was like, I need to pursue this that I'm feeling right now. And I talked to my parents during dinner. I just told them like, hey, I'm thinking this. I think I'm gonna quit tomorrow. I'm gonna start my own thing. Um, I'm not the first one, and that like starts a business, and I'm definitely not gonna be the last one. Everything goes wrong, I just look for another job. And I think that I was very grateful because, my parents have always been very supportive, and my dad is an entrepreneur. His business just turned 20, like they just turned 27.
What kind of business is it?
It's a construction and like electrical engineer
Okay.
company. And, he has always inspired me because I've seen him through, starting and literally us sometimes basically scrambling to like have any food or like have like a proper meal to now him being like very successful. And he's always told me like keep very good relationships with everyone. You never know, right? You never know when you're gonna need a hand. You never know. And he has helped me build and think of like never burn bridges, right? So deciding to move to LA was again that 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 dream that feeling that I felt inside of like I can do this remotely. I don't have any kids. I'm not married.
You had
So
a lot of confidence because me, even before kids, even before all that, I'm a scaredy cat. So I'm very risk averse, but it seems like you were willing to bet it all on yourself.
yeah, I just I don't want to say I'm a YOLO person because I'm in in reality I'm a very practical person. So when I moved to LA again with no network or safety net, I literally didn't know anyone here, not even a friend. The only thing I had in my mind was this is what I want to achieve. Like this is the experience that I want to gain. This is the roles that I want to, get. And at the same time, I knew that I wanted to elevate and shape how these brands were going to connect authentically with Latinx and diverse audiences. So I just knew that my purpose in terms of roles and work already had a meaning, right? And already
Mm.
meant something. So I think that's what has given me, the gas or the fuel to continue to stay here because the path hasn't been um, an easy one, but I keep going back to like
Your why. It seems like you had a very strong mission. Like you had a very, like you said, you used the words, the dreams and drive words. You had that gas, you had that fuel. And a lot of us, I know for myself too, I've even had to sometimes sit back and be like, what is my why? Because like if you don't have a strong foundation or a strong understanding of what's motivating you, then you could have easily been like, this ain't working. I'm going back home, right? Because I'm pretty sure your parents would have said, come back, Gabby, we miss you.
yeah.
They would have been like, accepted you with open arms. I want to know. I could not imagine Gabby moving to an entire different. And had you ever visited LA before coming here?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
I
So you
had
had that.
been
You knew
there,
that.
yeah, as a tourist, but never as a tourist, and living here is like very different things.
Hey, Dream Drivers, we're going to press pause on this conversation real quick to hear from our episode partner. Dream Drivers, have y'all ever fallen for a money scam? If so, what happened? But check this out. Your security deserves to be a priority, and Cash App treats it that way. With Security Lock, Cash App requires a successful Face ID or biometric authentication to access your account. It's like your money's protected by your own personal bodyguard, even if your phone is lost or stolen. Plus, if you're about to send money to someone new and Cash App notices something looks a bit off or that you might be falling for a scam, it will send you a warning before the money is sent to confirm that everything looks right. Turn on Security Lock in your Cash App settings today and pay attention to scam warnings to keep your money safe. Learn more at cash.app/security. For a limited time, new Cash App customers can earn $10 if they use code SECURE10 in their profile at sign up and send $5 to a friend within 14 days. Terms apply. Cash App is a financial services platform, not a bank. Banking services provided by Cash App's bank partners. Prepaid debit cards issued by Sutton Bank, member FDIC. Discounts and promotions provided by Cash App, a Block Inc. brand. Visit cash.app/legal/podcast for full disclosures. All right, back to the show. So, first year in LA, what was that like for you? Because the first year could really impacts everything.
Basically, moving to LA was meant starting over, a new culture, no network, the constant visa logistics, and um, it hasn't been a smooth.
When was the time period? Tell us the time, so just so that we know, like when did you move to LA?
Yeah, so I moved to LA in 2018.
Okay.
And my initial process was just like, let's try this for a year, let's see how it goes. My original plan was just do this for a year, gain some skills, gain some like competitive experience, and let's just go back home and use all of that for good and for to position myself um as like a professional that had lived in LA, where basically the industry is one of the most competitive, right? So yeah, when I decided to move to LA, again, I the only thing that I had was that conviction, right? So starting over in a new country in one of the most competitive industries in the world, I would say, and mostly here in LA, just meant rebuilding credibility from scratch while navigating again those like immigration limitations as an immigrant, and cultural differences. I freelanced, pitched myself to major brands, and often really worked like late nights to prove that um, Latinx creativity could compete at a global level. And there were moments of uncertainty. There were moments where I think my dad was like, like, or even like getting sick.
And there's no one there, right? Like you
Yeah,
can't
we're
go and drink your mom's soup or you can't,
yeah,
have those remedies that your parents would give to you. You're
yeah,
really on your own.
yeah. So those are the moments where I'm like that hit me, and I say like, oh my God, I'm really on my own here. And even sometimes I get these like thoughts of like, if I fall in my bathtub, like like no one's gonna find out like instantly or wherever. So there have been moments of uncertainty, but I think each challenge taught me again and has given me more resilience, resourcefulness, and I think and one thing that a lot of friends mention that they admire from my journey here is how I create opportunities, how I've created opportunities instead of waiting for them.
So let's talk about that because I'm thinking about you came here, you had to know, you knew you had to make revenue, right? You had to make money while you're here. I don't know if you came with the savings or something. You probably had something to set you, keep you going, but you knew eventually you couldn't be here a year and your business didn't work. What were some of those initial things that you really put into place so that you were creating opportunities and you were going out and you had this goal list and you were actually actively working towards those goals?
I did move with some, like savings, and then um, I still had my first client ever, which was L'Occitane, the French skincare from El Salvador.
I love their hand cream. Wait, they are from El Salvador or what
No,
while you
they're
were
French,
there?
but
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
the location in El Salvador. So I started their Instagram channel. Like I created their influencer program back in 2018. So I had that like cushion to say like, okay, at least I'm getting that like income, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, my work has always come from the growth of my business has always come from authenticity and relationships. Um, I focus on like creating genuine connections, and for this, for example, us, like
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes also I let my work speak for itself, and that will lead to meeting someone or someone referring me. So clients come to me now because they see that my work performs and feels different. It's inclusive, it's data informed, and it is built on community insight. So
Mm-hmm.
many of my clients or partnerships started with, building a small pilot project, and that has grown into long-term relationships because, again, of that trust and those measurable results. That authenticity is, and that resonance with different audiences, I think it's my biggest growth strategy.
So let's dive into like a real life example because some people might not understand how this really works in real life. So can you take me through a campaign? You don't have to go into all the specific details, right? But walk me through what it means to pitch a concept, right, through your House of Duke agency and then play it out and then execute it and be able to now use the results of that to get another project.
Yeah, so I one of my favorite campaigns was with again L'Occitane. They were launching they were launching the reformulation of their Precious line, which is a line for the younger demo. So I remember like, okay, we have Precious, and I think um, maybe another agency or whatever, the focus would have been like, okay, let's just then product and let them talk about, the benefits and features and say like, oh, it's a new formulation, whatever. But I decided to, again, go into that storytelling. And the campaign, the insight was basically like, what are those precious moments? So we identified different categories of influencers, from moms to like sports and athletics, women, and just like different profiles. And their the campaign was about sharing what was their precious moment in their life. So for one of them was basically waking up at 4 a.m. to go to CrossFit, so
Mm.
just finding that resonance um, in the story. I think if that's something really important, if you work in marketing, you really need to understand that resonance gets you a lifetime customer.
And that's what brands want to see because lifetime customers equal sales
Yeah.
equals revenue, right?
Yeah, so resonance, it really it sticks. It shapes how people buy, who they trust, and what would they recommend to someone else. So I think that's something that again leads to what I do differently, and what has, brands coming back and being like, okay, we really like what we did here, the results. We did see an ROI, etc. So again, it's that mix of creativity with data informed decisions.
Were you then, in order to keep that relationship going, right? Were you staying in touch with whoever was like the campaign manager from the brand side and then checking in? Like how are you getting how are you getting the next gig? Because a lot of us, we may have these big moments, right? But then nothing after that. So
Yeah.
what were some of the tangible things that you do or are continuing to do so that you continuously have a pipeline of clients?
Look, if anything I've learned, I'm always like iterating. Like from the previous partnership, I learned something new. So now, at the beginning, I think it was like, I'm just gonna throw myself and trust. I'm literally trust that they will come back. And then little by little, I started putting contracts into what we did, something that I didn't do before, which was now insane to think that I would just create a lot of work, do work, and not have anything to like back me up in case they decided to ghost me, right? And not pay. So this was something that I learned. It's just when I need a contract and a contract signed. And if there's no contract signed, then I'm not getting any work done. And sometimes that is very difficult because you don't want to burn relationships, right? And
Exactly.
if you get into this like very like strict, like no, 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 like I'm not gonna get anything done before you sign the contract, like you you want to create that balance between like, okay, like I'm gonna help you here, but also I'm
I
not.
need to get paid. Be
Yeah,
fair to me
right.
too.
Yeah. So and then with time I started putting um notes on the contract about late payments, about last minute cancellations, like just really protecting myself. Um, and then with different services, I also started to be like, okay, I can't do like a one off. So I need, if you want the service, it has to be 3, 6, or 12 months. Yeah. So now, for example, I bill at the beginning of the month or at the beginning of the campaign because I know by the time I finish, if I bill them by then, I'm gonna wait like 90 days or whatever. But what I was telling you with the contracts is like, uh, I would do the service if we sign a 3-month contract of services. or a 6 or 12. Those are the terms and periods that I use. And again, it's just learning from, from what didn't work before, or what, like, I don't know if I can say the word screw me before, but just like, being like, okay, I failed at this. I should have thought of this. So now I'm gonna put it in the contract. I'm gonna be clear about this, and also leaving everything on writing. That's,
You have to. And
yeah,
that brings me to a question I want to ask you. What were some of the other challenges that you were navigating at this time, and what were they teaching you about yourself? So talk about the challenges and then how going through these impacted you as a person.
being sometimes the only one in a room
Mm.
with an accent where English is not my first language. Um, all those like self-aware moments of like, oh my God, like I am the only one that looks like this, or I'm the only one that talks like this. Um, I don't know if that's like a disadvantage to myself. Maybe they think I won't be able to speak properly with a client, or like it became like a really big insecurity of mine at the beginning. Um, but I have learned that sometimes that's what sets me apart, is that I bring that cross-cultural approach. And I understand that marketing isn't just about reach. And again, it's about like resonance, right? So I think that gives me the capability of connecting emotionally with
Mm.
audiences, emphasizing that authenticity, that inclusion, and at the same time, not forgetting the measurable results. I think that has been my main insecurity. And um, while being here, you would say that in LA, there's, so many immigrants, but I'm gonna say something like probably
Say it. You have to.
very controversial, but there's not a lot of immigrants in the big tables, you
Yeah.
know?
And
Uh,
I want to talk about that because I oftentimes like, I'm from the New York, New Jersey area and I've been to LA once. Have you ever been to New York?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
like I don't know if you feel like New York is more diverse or has more immigrants, but working at a big corporate company, right? Like the people at the top, the people who are making the decisions, you might have people on the junior teams who are diverse, and I'm saying that in quotation marks, but the people who are making the decisions often aren't. But it's so important for women like you who come from varied backgrounds, right? Who may not be like, I never thought about the insecurity of English not being my first language because I've never been in that environment. Like I could imagine if I went to El Salvador, right, and was trying to do this work in El Salvador, my Spanish is no es tan bueno, right? No, it's not that good. It's not that good. So I could only imagine just how that's a different barrier that you have to face and you have to make sure people aren't going to judge your work because like at the end of the day your work is superior and it's like I've said I've worked with you on projects before and you always are pushing. That's one thing I've noticed. You're not afraid to ask, are we considering this?
Mhm.
Why is that so important?
I think, I don't know if at this point, I don't know if at this point is an insecurity, or just because I've really worked on myself and now I am like a very assertive person.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of this experience has taught me to pitch myself fearlessly, and to
How
prove
do
my.
you become like that though? I say that because I bet you there's somebody's listening who wants to be more assertive, wants to be more self-aware. Do you think that's part of your personality, or do you like how were you actively working on that? Because it's
Yeah,
important.
yeah. I think it's always starting, with your purpose. And then I always say like data doesn't lie, right? I'm not saying this in data as in metrics, but when you're getting that like imposter syndrome, right, that we talk about so much these days, look back at the data, look back at all you've done, look back at all the feedback. I do started keeping track of feedback, even if it's just like a one word. Um, oh my God, thank you so much. Like, I started to keep track of that positive feedback that I got to really start to believe that, like to believe that that is true. So I think for, like anyone that's early in their journey or just like trying to be more assertive, I would say again that like get radically self aware. Pay attention to what feels natural and what drains you. And once you identify that zone of genius, protect it and nurture it. Because me personally, I don't think the world needs more well rounded professionals. I think it needs people who are undeniably great at what they're meant to do.
I love that.
I think it all comes back to that purpose. For me, is working with big brands, proving that Latin American, Central American, Latinos, we have a place at the table. It doesn't matter our accent. It doesn't matter um, how we look like. It has to come from that purpose, and that will basically just know, when you know what you're meant to do, um, that will give you that fearless, like way of being, and I think that's what has helped me.
I was just during ad week, I listened in on a ad week session that said why brands shouldn't just be hopping on the Bad Bunny bandwagon, right? Because a lot of people are just now trying to speak to Latinx audiences, and they're not doing it the right way. And it's like make room for the people who can actually make a true impact. And it's when you're trying to create conversations and be authentic, when you get it wrong, you just do a disservice to the people that you're supposedly trying to connect with. So I think it's so important if you're listening in and you know that you have a voice and you know that this is within your zone. I feel like it's part of your calling to act on it. And you talked about this idea of the zone of genius. How do you think, because there might be people listening in who may not be in media, who may not be in marketing, but are trying to figure out, well, then, Gabby, like, how do I know my zone of genius? What does that really mean?
See what comes natural to you, right? And what really drains you. For me, for example, um so, like managing social media, um like managing the execution, the posting, the etc., that used to drain me. But what felt natural to me was creating the strategy, the message behind a campaign. So, and again, for me, what felt natural was elevating voices. I've had the privilege to have a very um, supportive family. I've had the privilege you know, to to be the first one in my family to do something like this. And my success becomes a collective win, So constantly remind yourself that with your purpose, with that zone of genius comes responsibility, and that by pursuing that, you're building proof that it's possible, right? And I think that's something that everyone should, at least once in their life, if not many times in their life, should check in with themselves. Like, what feels natural, what drains me, what feels natural, I'm going to protect it and I'm going to nurture it.
Be honest with yourself when you're doing that exercise. I say that because for me, for example, I feel like one of my zone of genius is asking questions. Seems very simple.
Yeah.
And I think for a long time, it was hard for me to accept that something so simple could be a gift until I've met with people and they're like, in interview situations, I don't know what to do, or I don't feel comfortable asking people this. And I'm just like, wait, what? Your gift doesn't always have to be this big splashy thing. And I think a lot of us are looking for these big splashy moments when it's okay. Like maybe your gift is you know how to calm down dogs. Whatever, right? That's so random. But I'm saying that as in like lean into it. No matter how small you think it may be, or no matter how unsexy, there's something there that you can uncover. And if you lean into it, so many things will blossom for you. I'm pretty sure you've probably seen that in your own life, right? Like really leaning into a very unique skill set, very unique thing has allowed you to do so much more than you ever thought you could ever do.
Yeah, exactly. I think again, remembering what even that small thing, like I'm really good at petting dogs or something like um that could lead you into building a business, like so yeah, it's just those moments of again making feel someone heard. It's just it's different things that just come natural to you that again can lead you into creating a whole business from it. And I don't mean this in like profiting from something, but actually making an impact, and building proof that it's possible because other people may be thinking the same thing and they're not giving that step because they're scared, and you don't know, what your success is teaching other people.
Like you never know who might be impacted by what you do. Like for example, you might not have known that I admired your work, right? Like beyond working together, you might not have known I was behind the scenes saying, "Damn, like Gabby's good at what she's doing." So you never know who's being inspired by what you do. But I have a question for you, Gabby, as we start to wind down. What's keeping you here? Right? You said you had no plan B, right? You came here with no safety net. But you could have gone home. What keeps you motivated on the dream driving mission that you have now?
um I think my answer will come back to resilience, social impact, and leadership. Honestly, remembering that I didn't come this far alone. My family's sacrifices, uh, my community, the women who I DM or who DM me saying that they're seeing everything I'm doing from El Salvador, and that they are so inspired. Even
Mm.
going through like mental health issues, I started sharing those on my platforms, and a lot of people were being like, "Oh my God, like you're so brave," because mental health in El Salvador is still like
No
like
one's
you
talking about it.
in Latino culture mostly is like, "What do you mean you're depressed?"
Or go
Like,
pray, right? Go
yeah, or
to.
it's either go pray or either like get busy, go like sweep up the floor. Like it's just very diminished and unvalidated. So just hearing not only women but also men, friends DMing me and saying what you're saying has inspired me. What you're saying is very brave of you, and I think that grounds me. And what I was saying before, when you're the first one in your family to do a lot of things like um, leaving the country, studying out abroad, um, starting your own business, your success becomes a collective win. I remind myself of that all the time. I'm not just building a career, I'm building a proof of concept, if you want to put it like that. In
Does that
it,
ever feel like a burden to you? And I say that because I come from an immigrant family myself where like, my parents were well, I'm first generation. My parents were from Jamaica. There's like this pressure to succeed, right? Of course, I don't want to fail, but what if I do fail? That's always in the back of my head. Like, how do you navigate? I wouldn't say it's a burden, but like, how do you navigate that feeling of the collective success that you're trying to build?
that's a very good question. I think it's really hard or it's really easy to be hard on ourselves and be like, oh my God, the world is like depends on me and whatever. And again, I was talking to my therapist yesterday and she reminded me, like, look at the data. Like,
Mm.
stop making stories about yourself. Like, stop making narratives that no one is talking about. No one is bringing this up. Like, no one is pressuring you into, like, give me results, or your family, your friends, your community. Like, no one is asking you for like a monthly report, you know? So yeah, just keep going, keep on going back to the data, keep getting like seeing that feedback and remembering, oh, that one person that I met told me that they admire me. Keep just going to the data, that proof. Um, and that's what has kept me going. And I'm sure that's what can help anyone, that's going through those limiting beliefs, um, to help them get unstuck. I always say that when you feel stuck, it just means that something great it's on its way.
That's a great way to think about it. It's kind of like I say that with the car analogy for this podcast when you're stuck in neutral, right? A lot
Yeah,
of people are either stuck in reverse or stuck in neutral, but those are both pathways to drive if you allow yourself to keep moving, right? Like
yeah,
you can't be in reverse forever, and at some point you're going to die out in neutral, so you have to go into drive at some moment to get that momentum.
yeah.
Um, Let us quickly pivot to I have a section of the show where it's called your keys to success, right? And you can't be a dream driver without having your keys to success. So, Gabby, would love for you to tell me the first three things that come to mind. If you want to be a dream driver, what are those keys that you need to be building, collecting, looking for, working on, whatever it is?
Yeah. Uh, I think vision is what helps you think beyond one thing to long-term impact. Um, Cultural empathy lets you understand the why behind many things and not just numbers. And lastly, I would say strong will that will keep
Mm,
you moving when opportunities aren't handed to you. That consistency will build credibility and resilience. It's when resilience turns into reality.
And I know I'm gonna take us back full circle here. You mentioned that you were the only girl with your siblings, and your dad was a very hard worker and built his business from the ground up. What do you think he would say? Or what do you think he's saying to people about his little girl, Gabby, who's now doing all these great things here in LA?
Oh, that's I'm gonna try not to cry, but I remember like recently I got a two-page spread in a national newspaper in El Salvador, and it came out um the day of his birthday.
Oh, wow.
And he said like this is the best gift I could ever ask. He would say everyone else that says like any compliment to him about me, I think he would say thank you. But if he's talking to me, he always tells me you've already won. You know.
Mm,
So I think my dad is very, of course, appreciative of everyone else, but I think his words to me are more from the heart. and he
Yeah.
always tells me, is this or something better? You've already won. And that is something again that keeps, going back to, wow, I've already accomplished all of this. I've already won.
And you know how you said that you have to keep like those little moments where you screenshot those things of the feedback and the data never lies. I hope that when this episode comes out, like make a recording of you saying that, right? And that's something that you can go back to and be encouraged when you might have a moment of just being like, what am I doing? Because we all have those moments. So thank you so much for sharing that, Gabby. Please tell our dream drivers what's next and where can they stay tuned so that they can be a part of the journey?
Yeah, so I'm really excited about expanding my voice and my experience. I'm launching a podcast called Historias que nos contamos, which translates to um, the stories we tell ourselves. And again, it's about combining storytelling with entrepreneurship, and it comes from the idea of those stories we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
What if I fail? What if nobody buys my product? What if nobody believes in me? And that was something that really ruled in me for a long time, and what stopped me from quitting and following what was in my heart. So that platform is coming out soon, and I will grow it into. I already have a vision of growing it into live events, micro grants, member mentorship, etc. And then I'm also developing, it's called Los Realios. So think the Oscars meet Instagram, and it's
Oh.
basically an award initiative celebrating Central American creators because we deserve spaces that recognize our creativity and innovation. So both of these projects represent the next step in my purpose. I've played an impactful role in bridging Central America and the US markets, showing that our stories have global relevance. And again, my story is one of immigration, effort, representation, but above all, I've always thought it's a story about how Central American women, especially, are creating impact through creativity, strategy, and community.
Ah, thank you so much. And don't forget to tell us where we can follow you on Instagram, on social
Yeah.
media, and our listeners can tune in and see this happen in real time.
Yes. So my Instagram is House of Duke. It's HAUSOFDUKE. And then my website is www.houseofduke.com.
Thank you so much, Gabby. I really hope that, I said in the beginning, like, I hope that you, after this, you feel refreshed, you feel renewed, you feel inspired by your own story just as much as I have by hearing you. And I know the people listening who've gotten to this point in the episode will be like, damn, like, I am inspired. I'm going to really reflect on how my dream driving journey can be tied to overall responsibility and purpose and not giving up on yourself, right?
That's right, and that's what I wish everyone feels when they hear this.
All right, so that's the wrap for this episode of Dreams and Drive. I hope you enjoyed our guest's dream driving journey as well as listening to their keys to success. If you love this episode, you know what to do. Please make sure that you are following us. We are at Dreams and Drive across social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So make sure you're sharing this episode, posting it to your Instagram stories, texting it to a friend, sharing on LinkedIn, wherever you are or online. Just pay this forward and share this with somebody. We really appreciate it. And all the sharing that you do helps us grow our community. If you want to join our email newsletter, The Keys, and get weekly updates delivered to your inbox, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/join. That's dreamsanddrive.com/join. And lastly, if you know somebody who would be great for this show, or if you are someone who would be great for this show, please go to dreamsanddrive.com/pitch. I'm always accepting new guests. I'm always accepting new pitches. So I love to see those pitch requests coming in. Keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in the next episode. Bye, guys.